Some moments in sports never need a final buzzer to become unforgettable. They do not require a championship trophy, a game-winning shot, or a viral highlight reel to prove their importance. Sometimes, the biggest moments happen quietly, in the tunnel, near the edge of the court, far from the spotlight that usually follows this player everywhere she goes. A young fan waiting at the barrier, a handmade sign clutched tightly, a pair of game-worn sneakers still warm from the court, and within just 30 seconds, a memory is created that will last a lifetime. That is exactly what happened after Caitlin Clark walked off the floor following the Indiana Fever's preseason matchup against the New York Liberty at Barclays Center on April 25, 2026. What seemed like a simple post-game interaction quickly turned into one of the most talked about moments online, shared across social media, replayed endlessly, and praised by fans everywhere. But this was never really about the shoes. It was about something much bigger. It was about character. About the kind of small, genuine moments that reveal who someone really is when the cameras are not demanding it. Those are the moments people remember. Those are the stories that last. And that is exactly why the internet cannot stop talking about it. Let's break down exactly what happened, because moments like this deserve to be told the right way before all the noise around them takes over. After the final buzzer of that preseason game, Caitlin Clark did not do what most athletes with her level of fame, attention, and superstar status usually do once the game ends. She did not rush straight to the locker room. She did not vanish down a private hallway while security and staff cleared the way. Instead, she slowed down. She walked toward the edge of the court where the fans were waiting, where the energy was still buzzing, and where one small moment was about to turn into something unforgettable. And then she stopped.
Clark made her return, and boy, the people were happy. The people were happy. The takeover in Caitlin Clark getting Jay-Z treatment in Brooklyn, New York. Hove, H to the O-V, we here to CCC. Caitlin Clark absolutely took over Brooklyn.
She sat down right there at courtside, calmly took off her game-worn Nike Kobe PE sneakers, signed them on the spot with a marker, and placed them directly into the hands of a young fan waiting at the barrier with a homemade sign, eyes wide, completely unaware of what was about to happen. The reaction said everything. It was raw, unscripted, and impossible to fake. Pure joy from a kid who came to watch a basketball game and left with a memory they will probably talk about for the rest of their life. In that one moment, it stopped being just about shoes and became something much bigger. The video spread across social media within hours, and honestly, there was a very good reason for that.
These sneakers are going to make you over $100 in profit. Just wait until I show you the exact stock numbers. And these drop in just a few hours at 10 a.m. Eastern time on the Nike Sneakers app, so lock in. And this won't be the first time this happened. Caitlin Clark Kobe's in the past have already resold for a lot. And that's $300 to $400. And this colorway is even better than the prior Kobe 5, so check this out. These are the Kobe 5 Protro Caitlin Clark Rookie of the Year, and they drop tomorrow, April 15th for $190. But considering the demand on Caitlin Clark Kobe's, these are going to resell for much more than that. The stock on Nike US is only 14,000 pairs. That's not too limited for a Kobe, but it's just limited enough for a Caitlin Clark Kobe to resell and make you some.
Now here is the part most people missed when that clip first started making the rounds online. Those were not just ordinary sneakers. They were not a standard retail pair you could walk into a Nike store and grab off the shelf. They were player-exclusive colorways, PE editions of the Nike Kobe 5 Protro, made specifically for Caitlin Clark and worn by her in live WNBA competition as arguably the most commercially influential female athlete in professional basketball right now. The public retail versions of Clark's Kobe 5 Protro colorways originally dropped at around $190, and depending on the size and release, resale prices have already climbed into the $375 to $435 range on platforms like StockX. But game-worn player exclusives? That is an entirely different world. Once a pair comes directly off the feet of a star like Clark after real game action, it stops being just footwear and becomes high-level sports memorabilia. Sneaker collectors, memorabilia investors, and auction experts have placed valuations on game-worn Clark PE pairs at well over $50,000. $50,000. And she handed them to a kid standing at the barrier like it was the easiest decision in the world. Because to Caitlin Clark in that moment, it was And that is exactly what makes this story bigger than just another feel-good clip that trends for a day and disappears with the next social media cycle. Because this was not a one-time gesture. It was not some perfectly staged PR moment designed by a brand team looking for maximum engagement. It was not a calculated move timed for cameras and headlines. This is a pattern. This is consistency. This is character. Because Caitlin Clark has been doing this long before the WNBA spotlight became this massive. Go back to December 2023, before the draft, before the record-breaking attention, before the historic media rights conversations, before the reported $28 million Nike deal. She was already doing it. After a game at Carver Hawkeye Arena in Iowa, she stood at the edge of the court, took off her game-worn shoes, and handed them directly to a young fan named Nora. Later, Nora described it as something she never could have imagined. Her father told reporters, "Thank you, Caitlin, for the shoes. I think she made a little girl's year." Then she did it again. July 2024, after Indiana defeated the Minnesota Lynx on the road, Clark tossed her game-worn pair to a fan in the stands while heading toward the locker room, barely breaking stride. Then again in Atlanta in 2025 after the Fever beat the Dream. 3 separate moments. 3 different cities. 3 completely different stages of her career. Same person. Same instinct. Same effortless generosity that feels genuine because it clearly is not something learned from a media strategy meeting, but something that comes naturally when nobody is forcing it.
There you go. Thank you so
much. The Atlanta moment, especially, is the one that made this impossible to ignore, because it showed that this was not random. It was instinct. In May 2025, after the Indiana Fever defeated the Atlanta Dream 81-76 in a tough, physical game where Clark finished with 11 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds, she was heading toward the tunnel when she noticed a young girl near the exit holding a handmade sign that read, "CC, could I have your jersey, please?" That could have been an easy moment to pass by. Most stars probably do. But Clark stopped. She smiled, laughed softly, and gave the kind of response that instantly made the moment feel personal instead of performative. She looked at the child and said simply, "I need my jersey." No cold brush off. No security pulling her away. No fake polished answer for the cameras. Just honesty, warmth, and then action. Because while she was keeping the jersey, she still made sure that fan did not leave empty-handed. She gave away the shoes instead, game-worn footwear that collectors and auction experts value like serious memorabilia, sometimes at the price of a car. And then she walked to the locker room like she had done absolutely nothing special. Because to her, she hadn't. That is the real difference between a celebrity and a superstar. A celebrity carefully manages every public moment to protect an image. A superstar simply lives by their values, and the moments people remember are the ones that naturally fall out of that truth. Now let's talk about the people standing on the other side of that barrier. Because the fans who showed up to Barclays Center for a preseason game on a Saturday afternoon in April were not there out of routine. They were not there because it was simply something to do on the weekend. They were there for one reason, specifically, intentionally, and enthusiastically, because of Caitlin Clark. You could see it everywhere. Jerseys with her number on the back. Handmade signs carrying her name. Entire sections of the arena buzzing with the kind of electricity you usually expect from playoff basketball, not a preseason exhibition in April where rotations are experimental and rosters are still unfinished. That matters. Because preseason games are not supposed to feel like that. Yet this one did. It carried the energy, attendance, and emotional investment that many regular season games across professional sports would love to have. That is the Caitlin Clark effect in real time, Not as a debate on television, not as a media rights headline, not as a talking point about ratings, but as something you could physically feel inside a packed arena in Brooklyn. The fans showed up. They stayed. And when the final buzzer sounded, they moved closer to the barriers because 2 years of watching her has taught them one simple truth. She doesn't just leave. She stops. And this time she gave them exactly what they came for, and more.
Not a ton of nerves, just like get out there, run around. You know, it's going to be probably a little sloppy here and there for both teams. That's kind of what preseason games are about. You give everybody some run, you figure out what lineups work, what don't, and everybody's just trying to get their footing again, and the same goes for me too. So I think obviously can rely on the USA basketball stuff that I did and that experience of getting back out there and, you know, my body feeling good, and bring that into today for sure.
How much do you expect to play today? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, like 20, 25 minutes is probably what you're going to see. Not like a minute restriction or anything like that. Just, you know, wanting to see some other lineups of people that are, you know, trying to make the team and giving them opportunities as well. So that's still a good amount of minutes.
Clark entered that preseason weekend carrying something much bigger than just the excitement of opening night. She was carrying time. More than 9 months away from competitive WNBA basketball. A difficult 2025 season that was interrupted and ultimately ended by injury. A long off-season built around recovery, rebuilding, and the kind of quiet work nobody sees. Rehab sessions, conditioning, repetition, and the mental challenge of trusting your body again after it lets you down. So when she stepped into pre-game media availability before the Liberty matchup, everyone in that room was asking the same question. What version of Caitlin Clark are we about to see? And what stood out most was how calm the answer felt. She talked about rhythm. About getting back to the natural flow of her game on a live court. About trusting the work that had been happening behind closed doors since July 2025 and allowing that work to show when the lights came on. There was no forced confidence. No exaggerated promises. No carefully polished attempt to lower expectations in case things did not look perfect right away. She wasn't performing belief for the cameras. She was simply ready. And the fans who have watched her closely enough over the last few years, the ones who know the difference between confidence and certainty, could already see it on her face before she ever touched the basketball.
In her return, she had 7 points, 3 assists, and 4 rebounds for Caitlin Clark in her return to action, okay? So this was a big return for Caitlin Clark.
Because what those fans came to see, and what they have been waiting 9 long months for, is something very specific. It is not just proof that she is healthy enough to be on the court again. It is that rare blend of skill, court vision, and creative instinct that separates Caitlin Clark from everyone else playing the game right now. The pull-up 3 from deep range. The kind of shot that forces defenders to stop mid-play because there simply is no comfortable answer for it. The passing angles that appear out of nowhere. The pace that shifts games in seconds. That is what the crowd came for. And in the limited minutes she played against the Liberty, the early signs were exactly what that fanbase needed to see. The rust from 9 months away was barely noticeable. The decision-making was sharp. The instincts were immediate. The movement already looked familiar again, like no time had really passed at all. She looked like herself. Not a version being eased back in. Not a player still searching for rhythm. But the version that, in 2024, made it clear to the entire basketball world that women's basketball had a new standard bearer. And if those early preseason glimpses are any indication, the 2026 WNBA season may have just become a lot more interesting than anyone was prepared for.
Well, this ain't a surprise to me, but now that the playoffs have started, we are getting the information for the regular season. The top 10 most shoes by minutes played, sorted by colorways in the NBA regular season, is here. You can take a look at it. But Caitlin Clark being number 1 is not surprising whatsoever. Even though this colorway came out halfway through the season, that's the best Nike Kobe 6 colorway to drop this NBA season. It is, bro. It's fucking magnificent. This Kobe 6 colorway is so good, I need to be a bigger. It's that good. You feel me? There's no other colorway that you can say. Don't say nothing else. Don't say Dodgers. Don't say Sale. Don't say nothing like that. You know this is the best one.
Here is the bigger picture that ties all of this together, because the shoe moment isn't just a feel-good clip with a clean ending. It's a small window into something much larger about what Caitlin Clark represents in modern sports culture. Clark signed a reported $28 million Nike deal after being selected number 1 overall in the 2024 WNBA draft. Since then, her Nike Kobe PE colorways have taken on a life of their own, becoming some of the most talked about sneakers in basketball, not just in the WNBA but across the entire sport. That kind of visibility doesn't show up as a simple merchandise stat. It signals a cultural shift, one where women's basketball is no longer sitting outside the main conversation, but actively shaping it. A decade ago, that level of crossover influence would have been treated as unrealistic. Today, it is happening in real time. And yet, the same athlete at the center of that commercial and cultural gravity is still doing something disarmingly simple. Sitting at the edge of a court after a preseason game, taking off game-worn sneakers, and placing them directly into the hands of a child holding a handmade sign. That contrast is what keeps pulling people back in. The scale of who she is in public, the endorsements, the attention, the global visibility, exists right alongside a very grounded, unguarded way she behaves in small moments. No staging, no overproduction, no distance between athlete and fan in those exchanges. And that gap between cultural magnitude and personal simplicity is exactly why this story keeps spreading every time it happens.
Okay, she got us a gift. For Caitlin's birthday, she got us a gift. Oh my god! Look at these! I really like the thick shoelaces. Oh my, so really cool. I really like the color green. They're so cool. It's gonna bring out my eyes. I love you. These are awesome. I'm gonna have to pop out in these.
GOAT behavior in sports rarely announces itself. It does not arrive with a caption, a campaign, or a carefully timed broadcast segment. It usually shows up in smaller, quieter decisions that only become meaningful once you step back and see the pattern. What it looks like here is not noise or narrative or television framing. It is a child at the barrier who came to a basketball game and left with something no transaction could ever recreate. Something no resale market can quantify in a way that actually captures what it meant in that moment. It is a superstar at the height of her commercial and cultural value, choosing, in real time, to pause long enough to turn a brief interaction into something personal. Not because it was expected. Not because it was scheduled. But because she could. And that is the part that separates the moment from the mythology around it. It is not staged. It is not packaged. It is not optimized for reaction. It is simply a real exchange between an athlete and a fan that happens to carry more weight because of who she is and what she represents in this current era of women's sports. The game happened. The return to the court happened. And then the moment happened, the one that people are still replaying, not because it was engineered to be viral, but because it felt immediate and human in a space that is usually anything but. One pair of shoes. One young fan. One memory that will outlast the box score, the highlights, and the conversation around it. That is the part that sticks. And that is also why stories like this don't really end when the game does.